Well, welcome to another edition of What's So Funny, the show that probes the brains, the minds, the psyches, and the brains of the people who make the funny. Tonight on the show, another 2-for-1 special. That's right, 2 guests for the same low, low price. We've got actor-director Lorne Cardinal and stand-up motivational speaker Monique Hurteau. And now a man who puts these bargain bonus shows together because he loves you, the loyal listener. Your host and MC, Mr. Guy McPherson. Guy.
Kevin, nice French accent with Hurteau.
Thank you.
How did he do, Monique?
Very nicely. I was wondering, and I think you say it better than I do.
Do you speak French?
No, not at all.
So it's Monique Hurteau.
Yeah, je parle un petit peu de français, and that's about it. Yeah.
I felt like I was in a cafe.
In Paris.
Yeah.
Like your old boss is right now, Brent Butt.
What's he?
He's in Paris.
What the heck's he doing there? Is
I
he
don't know.
Run out of this country or canceling the show? Get out of here.
Yeah. Lorne Cardinal and Monique Hurteau are here all the way from Squamish. You just made it right under the buzzer.
Yeah.
I have a stealth shield I put on my car. It works excellent.
Yeah. So, Lorne, do you ever get pulled over by the police? And as a famous actor, Officer Davis Quinton.
That's right. Sergeant Davis Quinton has fans
Sergeant,
out there.
I'm sorry.
No.
I demoted you.
I'm sorry. I'm fired. So it doesn't really matter. No, whenever I get pulled over, they've been kind. A couple guys have been kind. They said, looked around and he goes, would you mind signing an autograph? And I said, no, I don't mind at all. Of course you wouldn't. I went, oh, yeah.
Yeah, sign it on this ticket.
Yeah. And I had a couple nice folks actually lower the ticket so it didn't cost me the exorbitant amount and cost me less. So that was nice of them. They didn't have to do that, but that was nice.
That's not bad, Canadians.
I drive around with my DVDs and 8x10s glued to my dash, just so you know.
In the RCMP uniform. Yeah. But that's not great. That's for Canadian show business, just to get that perk, because it doesn't happen a lot, I imagine. No. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just going to say a few times where I've said, take your sunglasses off so that they know.
Oh, yeah, right.
But you guys live in Squamish and in Sin?
Yes.
Yeah. Shacked up.
Yeah.
In Sin City. In Squamish. Now, are either of you from there?
No.
I landed there about 3 years ago. I was moving from out east and just looking for a new place to start. And I knew I didn't want to live in a big city anymore, so I gave Vancouver a pass.
So you were based in Toronto before?
Yeah, I spent 11 years out there, so paying my dues, you know. And so I just had enough of that. And I'm from Sucker Creek, Alberta, and I spent a lot of time in BC tree planting, going to college here, and so I missed the mountains and lakes and rivers. So that was one of my things I was looking for when I moved back. Is had to be around water and the trees, the cedar trees of BC. So.
And the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're close enough to the city.
Less than an hour from our doorstep.
You found out tonight. At what speed?
Let's not talk about that.
So you guys... Lorne,
slap
actor,
on the depends and away we go. Eh?
Monique, stand-up comic, Lovebirds. How did you guys meet?
I was actually hosting a show for another comic, Ryan McMahon, and a friend of mine, and he asked me if I could host one of his shows, and I said, sure, this one time for free, I'll do it this one time.
Yeah.
And Monique was on the bill, and we locked eyes, and she started choking on her salad, so I knew she was the girl for me.
When was this?
That was last summer.
August 20th.
August.
8 p.m.
19th.
You wore Paisley.
Yeah, but it was a great show that night. It was at Zawa or Zesty, where
I don't know.
Yeah, one of those Z names.
Yeah, they've changed, but yeah, it was a great show that night too.
This was post Guy Earl.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're still doing comedy.
Yeah, occasionally, not they're. Not too often.
Right.
Pretty picky about stuff. So
as a female stand-up comic, I guess you meet guys all the time this way, right? Just
gentlemen, or yes, I meet lots of male persuasion types.
Male suitors, but obviously you knew of Lorne.
Yeah,
She never watched the show. Come on now.
Sorry, I know. I did tell you. I knew of the show, but I'd never seen a full episode, but I knew who Lorne was. And talking about the choking on salad thing, Ryan had just, type out the intro so that Lorne has something to read. And I was trying to multitask, so I was eating my pre-show dinner, and I hadn't chewed my food fully, had a mouthful, and I walked up and go, "Hi, you're Lorne. I'm," and start choking.
Did you give the Heimlich maneuver?
Well, I was thinking about it, but then she recovered rather quickly and gracefully, and I kind of went, "Oh, that'd be cool." Never been choked on before. Kind of sweet.
Yeah, but have you ever done stand-up, Lorne?
Me? No. I only work with a script. I like it when other people write my stuff. I did a little intro for Monique on one of her gigs, and would you say 5 minutes? I
said if you can do 5 or stretch it out, yeah.
Oh my God, it was the longest 3 minutes ever.
3 minutes.
And I thought I was like nice.
You thought you were up there for 20?
I was like sweating and the thing about being recognized is that people will give you a grace period, right?
Of 3 minutes.
Yeah,
apparently.
about it. And then
turns out
I saw them start shifting and rolling their eyes, and I go, "Okay, time to go." Monique, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was one of it was a corporate out Agassiz area, and it was a Christmas show. That was they weren't in the Christmas spirit maybe. But,
well, Monique, you got to write him an act then, right? If he reads other people's words.
Yeah, we've talked. Actually, we do a lot of writing. We just wrote a script together, and we have great fun working together. It was for a black tie gala for the Dreamcatchers Fund, and
a fundraiser, and I was hosting it with my friend Andrea Menard, who's an actor, singer as well, and it's to raise money for this great foundation that helps out a lot of communities and teams and all those all from different backgrounds across Canada, and they for kids who want to go to a camp or something, or a team that needs to get to a tournament, and so the foundation is there to help these people out all across all walks of life, and they do great work. So I've been their host on and off for the last 5 years. So they keep coming back. So,
but it was great though for us to write the script together too, because get to punch it up a lot and put some jokes. And
you're talking about the script of you guys hosting.
Andrea and Lorne hosting, but Lorne and I wrote the script for the awards show. So we wrote that out, and it was being they do it's pretty major. They had the Motown, the Funk Brothers from the guys from Motown.
Really?
Yeah, Standing in the Shadow of Motown, that film.
Yeah.
The Funk Brothers. They've got more #1 hits than Elvis, the Beatles, Rolling Stones combined.
And Bob Babbitt was there. It was
a couple of original Funk Brothers who are still around, and they're gigging all over the place. They're doing 200. 300 plus dates a year.
Wow.
And they're fantastic. They're incredibly fantastic.
Yeah.
Year before that, last fall, they had a fundraiser out in Hamilton, and they had Smokey Robinson. So I got to hang out with
and where
Smokester.
Is this?
Hamilton.
In Hamilton?
And it was in Hamilton.
In the arena that they have
in the convention center.
The convention center?
Yeah, these guys go all out. It's a black tie affair, and they get a lot of corporate folks come out and support because they do such great work. So I was hanging out with Emmanuel Lewis as well, Webster.
Oh, yeah, Theo.
Was there.
Theo Fleury was at this one, and who else?
Listen, Emmanuel Lewis.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
The Webster. And I didn't realize. I said, "Hey, it's not an act. You are kind of small." And
you didn't call him Gary Coleman or anything.
No. I just got down on my one knee and asked him if I could have a picture with him, and it was great. And he said, "Sure, no problem." It was great. It was fantastic.
And okay, Monique now. Theo Fleury.
Oh, yeah.
Get to your hockey players.
Theo Fleury and Mike Bullard, the NHL Mike Bullard. Yeah.
He was an NHL Mike.
Yeah. He was
you know what he's known for?
I didn't know that.
Getting speared in the junk by Marty McSorley.
Yeah, when he played for Calgary in the playoffs, Marty McSorley skated by and pitchforked him right in the hooskow. And he went down like a bag of onions. Yeah. Oh. But he's a great guy. They were all fun, and everyone was there for the same purpose, to help support this group and get people to donate money to help out kids and stuff. So.
Well, that's fantastic. You get to do those kinds of events. I know you guys were just at a big wine tasting.
Oh man, the Osoyoos Celebrity Wine Festival.
I'm going there next week, by the way. Not to the wine festival, but to Osoyoos.
You should.
If you get
try
a chance, it's great. Osoyoos is great too.
Yeah, beautiful wines from Osoyoos region. I mean, all those wines are just delicious.
Yeah.
Need to say more. And food, they pair it with food. So you walk around and eat and take pictures and yap with folks. And
quite a life.
Yeah, and then for to relax, I got drug in an inner tube behind a speeding motorboat, which was, never done that before. That was great.
No, I don't like that.
Oh, it was fantastic, right? And the code is, right, they say, if you want to go faster, you put your thumb up, right? And if you want to slow down, thumbs down, right? So I'm sitting there, and we're torquing along pretty good. I'm getting some air and stuff, and I see Monique taking a picture. So I
From
said,
the shore?
Camera. No, she was on the back of the boat, right?
Yeah.
So I see her with the camera. So I pose. I put my thumb up and smile for the camera, and I can hear Monique because she's recording it. She goes, "I think he wants to go faster," and he did. The guy dropped the hammer, and it's like, whoa! All of a sudden, I was like skipping.
And you stayed on?
For a little bit, and then I caught some major air.
Yeah, not too long after that. You could see in the video you got some good air on that one. But Oscar Lopez, the musician, fantastic musician.
Yeah.
He's like Cirque du Soleil on the guitar. He was in the boat and he goes,
What does that mean?
he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like what he can do with a guitar. You're just standing there dumbfounded.
In what genre?
I think he's Spanish, classical Spanish.
Oh, yeah. Love
He
that.
could probably
And he
play
sings
flamenco,
and-
and he can do it. He plays with a lot of folks. He plays with
but he was in the boat beside me. They ended up going out another time, but he goes, I think he just meant he was doing okay. And then I went, and then Lawrence down.
and he's in.
Did you get hurt landing in the water going that fast?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And you didn't run over anybody?
No, didn't. No. The high-pitched screams kind of cleared the way, so that was.
Because last year,
birds and stuff got out of the way.
Last year, I was out in a canoe with my wife and son, and I saw these things go screaming by. And it was just like, a lot of them are people who've never driven anything before.
Yeah. No,
so I just stayed close to the shore.
These guys were good though.
ATB water sports out in Osoyoos. They were fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They suited me up, and they slapped on a life jacket on me, and I kind of didn't quite do up. And I said, "So have you got a life coat for men?" Because it was like really.
You're a big guy. How tall are you?
I'm husky. I'm 6 foot.
6 foot, and a former rugby player.
Yeah. I'm still dabbling in that a little bit. I'm on the rebound from a knee injury, so we're working on getting that back into shape so I can go crash around some more.
I read that you played in the World Masters.
Yeah, in 2005 we won the bronze medal in our competitive division.
Now, is that when you were on Corner Gas?
Oh,
is that still filming?
Yeah.
Now, don't they have clauses in the contract?
You see, the thing about that clause is they list all the activities you shouldn't do, you can't do,
and they don't
mention rugby. No, and they knew I was playing it. The producers knew I was playing it, and I don't think they quite understood the game. But I needed the venting. I needed some place to release some tension.
Wow.
And it was great. So I'd be playing, and I only showed up a couple times with a couple of contusions to make up. Went to town, and
they wrote it in the script.
No, they just shot me from the left side, or or behind the head, wherever the scrape wasn't showing. And but it was fun. I had tons of fun. Played with the Condors out in Regina, and I played for the Druids at the World Masters Games. That's my home club in Edmonton.
Are you the hooker?
No. I'm a flanker. Flanker, second row, number 8.
Kevin's impressed that I knew one position. And it's the hooker.
Yeah. It's most noticeable.
Who was that? Oh, Brian.
Yeah.
We were at the wine festival. We were hanging out with George Canyon, the country singer, and his wife Jen, and then George's assistant Karen and her husband Brian. And
we got to talking rugby. He goes, "Oh yeah, who you play for, boy?" He's from Nova Scotia, and I said, "I play for the Druids." He goes, "Druids? I played against them." I said, "Yeah, where are you from?" "Pictou County, Nova Scotia." And he goes, "I know Pictou County well. I played against you." So we played against each other.
Wow.
When we were both thinner and had more hair.
And 6 nonstop hours later, while they're talking like schoolgirls, then they get into the rugby songs later. So it was so much fun, though.
And maybe you'll do one later tonight. When I was a kid, Gareth Reese, I made him carry my trumpet to school for me.
Nice.
He was younger than me,
Nice.
So I bulked him up for his career in professional rugby.
Hey, there's a big fundraiser coming up too, July 15th at the Red Lion Pub in West Vancouver.
The Howlers.
It's we're throwing a fundraiser for the to help our Team Canada boys for the Rugby World Cup.
Oh, yeah?
We're auctioning off some gear. We're going to have a lot of past team captains there present. Our big guy Al Sharon is probably going to be there, and he's a big drinker. He's about as big as that door.
One hand is like, it looks like he could just crush somebody's head.
And he probably has.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, actually, he broke Peter McKay's arm. When Peter McKay, the defense minister, plays rugby. He's a rugby player.
Oh, wow.
And they played a friendly out in Ottawa, and Al Sharon broke his arm. So why'd you stop there, Al? I'm saying.
So, political. So the national team needs help monetarily. Where is the Worlds, by the way?
It's in New Zealand this year.
Okay.
And 2011 September. So it's coming up, and most of our players are amateurs. They're elite athletes, but they also have day jobs and mortgage payments, car payments, and student loans, but they're still committed to representing our country. So what we're doing is just raising money and to give towards the players, so they can just focus on training and playing rugby and getting ready, because the competition is just incredible. We're ranked 15th in the world right now. So.
Yeah.
The highest we've gotten so far is number 10, and that was back in, I think, 92 or somewhere around there. We were ranked 10, so we've fallen a few. But it's just help our lads out there, just so they can focus on training and just focus on the game and not worry about other things to distract them. So.
Is it something you aspired to when you were younger, before you got into acting?
Absolutely.
To play national?
Absolutely. That's what was one of my goals, was to play for Canada, and I was headed on that route, and then I got waylaid and ended up in Kamloops and found theater and acting. So it was, but I was playing rep ball for Edmonton and Alberta. I played Alberta Juniors and Edmonton Juniors and Fraser Valley under 23s, and I was starting to focus that way on trying to do what I had to do to go play for Canada.
Did your teammates give you the gears for finding theater?
No, because they all.
Look what Lorne wants to do.
Look. Well, they knew I was weird anyway. Since when I was playing in Edmonton, I think there may be about one or two other guys who were with Native heritage, but I was the only Cree guy on my club, and the only Native in the whole Edmonton league at that time. So this was in the 80s or 81 or something like that. So wasn't a lot of us around, and then I started growing my hair long, and that didn't go over well. Well, the guys got used to it, and they learned really quickly not to grab my hair. So
yeah,
learn the hard way or otherwise. Yeah.
Where'd you say that tournament though too, where the announcer went a little overboard about you being on TV?
I did get to play with Canada. Actually, I played for the 35 and over boys, and we had a match against the American Eagles 35 and over team, and we were in Regina, and I got onto the team. I got to play for Canada, so a dream, off my bucket list. And
how'd you do?
I think we lost, but I had a great time. I got to play with my heroes. Gareth Reese was one of them. He was suited up, so I got to play with some of the guys I grew up going, wow, I want to be like that guy.
Right. Mark Wyatt?
He may have been there, actually. Yeah.
My year in high school.
Yeah. And and we're being introduced, and he's introducing Team Canada members, and then the announcer stops and kind of. He said, and he's an actor on Corner Gas, and he's this and that. And I just felt the other team looking at me, getting my number, and going, great, thanks a lot, buddy. That's going to help me a lot.
Get this guy.
Yeah, that's
my claim to fame.
Yeah, I punched out an actor.
So you mentioned your Cree.
Yeah.
Monique, you have the heritage
I'm
too.
I'm mixed, Métis, but I'm Cree. My family's from Muskowekon. My grandma's from Muskowekon Reserve, which is near Lestock, Fort Capel. And I'm also French in there, but I have a bit of a mix.
We heard earlier how French you are.
Yeah.
Where did
Hurteau and Belrose.
Up?
Around BC, actually. I was born in Penticton, and then I went to 11 different schools around the province. So
kept getting kicked out?
Well, it might have been the Prince George happened too early.
What was that?
We just moved. My mom was doing land titles work, so we were moving around the province for that. But then I pretty much switched schools every single year, except for 1 year. I was in 3 schools in a year, but spent time in the Kootenays and then in Prince George, which explains the look of sadness about my eyes and why, if you hear glass breaking, my fists go up in like 2 seconds. So,
start pulling hair.
Yeah.
That's why Lorne got it cut.
But yeah, so around
So
BC.
how many high school reunions do you go to?
Zero.
Yeah. Because you didn't have any of those connections, right?
Well, I kind of did, but I don't know. I didn't really care for school. Kids are mean, really, over the years and stuff. So I don't know.
Well, especially if you're always the new kid coming in.
Yeah, and Prince George was my last school, and I was trying to do anything to get the hell out
right.
of there. So.
And that's another thing that we have in common is that, when I was growing up in Edmonton, we traveled around a lot as well, and we went to a lot of different schools. Always the new kid, always the brown clown, and it was very hard.
You were the clown?
Yeah, it was the only way I could stop from getting beaten up, and I was a bit of a wiseacre. And I also had a brother who was tougher and meaner than me, so they kind of left me alone.
He looked out for you.
Yeah. He had my back.
You mentioned Sucker Creek.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Yeah, I know, for a casino.
Sucker Creek. Yeah.
Come on in.
So was it like, that's near Edmonton?
It's about 4 hours north of Edmonton. It's the west end of the Lesser Slave Lake, where the big fires this spring was. Yeah.
Oh,
They hit Slave Lake, but they missed us. See, even fires won't come around where I'm from. No, that's Sucker Creek. No, man.
So you were the class clown. Did you have stars in your eyes then? I mean, you were playing rugby, but...
No, I didn't discover acting until I was like 23, 24.
So not even an option, not even a...
Didn't even think of it. No, wasn't even anything...
You just like making your friends laugh.
I just like making people laugh, and I was pretty good at it.
Doesn't,
And before that, I was a photographer for 5 years. I did that. I worked for a native newspaper in Edmonton, a weekly. And,
a news photographer.
Yeah, so I was a darkroom technician news photographer. So I was develop all the film, print the pictures, and they made me eventually go out and cover stories. So I had to go and cover ball tournaments and meetings and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It was that's when I learned. I don't know how to write.
I was going to say, did you enjoy that?
No, I liked it. I liked the whole newspaper business. It was fantastic. I totally loved it, because it was during the time, too, when the constitutional talks were going on. So, we had fodder every time, and the natives were heavily involved. So I was totally finger on the pulse of politics, which runs in my family. So it was a good time. I totally enjoyed it, learned a lot, and played rugby on the weekends. Practice, 2-3 times a week, and then play games on the weekend and do a newspaper job. It was great.
You've led a charmed life.
I was pretty lucky. Yeah.
So, Monique, when did you start thinking that you wanted to be on stage? Or were you doing theater as a kid?
No, I wasn't, actually, because moving again. I think moving every single year, I wasn't involved in anything particular. I did solo stuff like triple jump and sprinting and stuff like that, and then but I remember one of my key moments that sort of sticks out for me was in grade 9 when you had to do oral presentations and you had to cadence them so you'd finish in a certain amount of time, and these were supposed to be a minute and a half exactly in 90 seconds, and I practiced thought I got this. I was the teacher's pet, Mr. Paczieski. I always got to write the notes on the board. I could do no wrong, and I was always cracking jokes, and I was golden in there until I went to give that speech. A 90-second speech got zoomed through in 20 seconds. I hyperventilated and ran out of the class and went, what the hell was that? How did that happen? And realized I was terrified of public speaking.
So, of course, makes perfect sense
that
you would choose to do that.
So I thought, though, this is ridiculous. How can this be? I was caught right off guard by it. So down the road, early 20s, I was in Nelson, and I got a chance to be involved with Toastmasters, the public speaking group, and there was a thing called the Joke Master at the beginning of the meeting. They get somebody to tell a 2-minute joke to warm up the meeting, and I kept hearing people do the same, over the weeks prior. A horse walks into a bar, and I thought, I'm not going to tell an internet joke or a street joke or something that somebody's heard before. So I wrote my first comedy bit, and I killed at the Toastmasters meeting. And I disrupted the meeting so much that I had people coming up to me saying, where did you find that? Or did you write that? And I just thought, this is awesome. I don't want to do this talking crap anymore. Let me be the joke master from now on. So I think I petered out with that I don't know how many weeks I lasted because I just thought the rest of this is boring. I want to do that joke part. So
right, yeah.
So then later I did some stand-up, some theater, sports, and improv in Kamloops. There's not a lot of offerings around there, but one of the guys now, I don't know if Ken Lawson.
Yeah.
He's Ken and I did
Vancouver Theatre Sports.
Yeah, so Ken and I did theater, sports, improv in Kamloops, and he was so much fun. We just had a riot. So then he ended up leaving. I left, and then I don't know where I moved around a bit, got to Vancouver, and thought now's the chance. And actually, Carter Horty.
Yeah.
He emceed one of my family, a relative of mine. He ended up emceeing their wedding, and so chatted with him there. And
that's where you met him.
Yeah, I met Carter back then.
He said, "Come down and try it out."
Well, I saw him do his thing at the wedding, and he seemed so comfortable, and we chatted, and he goes, "You're really funny, and I said, "Oh, well, thanks," having a comedian say that, and I always known that. Aside from stand-up, I was always excellent at reading situations and just saying 2 words and laying everybody out, but I wasn't always zinging constantly. I just sort of sit back and then just say something and be gone. And I love that power. Yeah. So that stuck with me. And then eventually when I got down here, my first show actually was at Zesty or Zawa.
Mm-hmm. Zesty Zawa.
Zesty Zawa.
And how did it go, that first show?
Really well. Yeah.
So you obviously learned not to speed through your material.
Yes.
In 20 seconds.
Yes.
That's an important lesson. What's the biggest lesson you learned to get to that point where you're comfortable on stage? Just breathing, or what is it?
It's easier said than done, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's a week in particular that stands out for me. I knew going in, I thought, I want to be myself, because I'm me as a person, and what I do and my take on things has always worked for me. And it's always been something where I've had people go, "You're not supposed to talk like that. The way you look." I had guys before say, you'd be good arm candy if you'd keep, watch what you're saying. You're not supposed to talk like a trucker, or you're not supposed to be talking making the guys blush, or
right.
And it wasn't even about filthy stuff. It was just about twisting things and going places a woman's not supposed to.
Yeah.
You could get by on your boobs alone if you wanted to. Why do you bother with this kind of stuff? So I don't know.
You are twisted.
Well, so. I like the dark side. I'm actually working on a one-woman show right now to do in theater, because I find stand-up, I can go a lot darker in theater and still punch it up with humor, but you can go really dark then without having to worry about laughs per minute kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
I've had golden nights where I've done my darkest stuff. I did one at the Hennessy at Johnny's room.
Scoops?
Yeah, and it was in between punchlines, it was a pin could drop. It was just dance puppets. I loved it.
Oh yeah, so it was in a good way that a pin could drop. They were hanging on.
They were hanging on every word. So a pin, and then when I hit the punch, it was just oh yeah. But often you can't do that darker stuff that I like.
Right.
But I found though, for me, the journey has been more about how close can I stay to being myself without focusing more what pleases me and still makes the audience laugh, instead of I've had those nights where you have an audience there might be several people in the back cackling really hard, and the rest of them are staring at me going, "What the hell's wrong with this woman?" I've had those nights, and I know you can't make a career out of those, but I love those few sickos in the back that are laughing.
Right.
They make me happier than sometimes an audience full. And I've told you this story where my friend Al Hassam and Kelly, and who else was there? Andy Canetti, and we were out we were doing a fundraiser, dry grad fundraiser, and it was for parents raising money so their kids don't get drunk for their grad, and the parents were hammered.
How does that work?
They were drinking all the booze, so there was none left for their kids.
That's how they do it.
But I had 200 people. I had a great set that night. 200 people in the palms of my hands. They were right there, and I could really do almost no wrong, and it was one of those great nights, and it's easy to feel good after that. A week later, same material, same energy level, but I was in a little coffee shop. There were 3 people there. There's no alcohol, bright lights. I'm in an atrium. It was the same thing, and these people were staring at me like I had a third arm growing out of my head. And I had one of those Zen moments where I just thought, this is so horribly bad that it's ludicrous, that I actually got the giggles a bit and thought, this is probably one of my favorite sets I've ever done before. And I didn't panic. I just, I embraced it. Right. And so it's, for me, that's been the biggest thing, is trying to learn to just be there and know that my funny is good enough. Like it's good for me and it works for the most part. But if I'm doing a gig out in White Rock with, good old, rich white boys, or, a certain, the caste system, I'm, they probably like, she's from the other side of the tracks and I'm not going to be invited back to the country club again. Mm-hmm. Like, I had those nights.
This is why Lorne likes to read other people's words, right? Because if it fails, it's their fault.
Yeah, absolutely. Blame the writer.
Right? But a stand-up, it's on you.
Yeah.
Or the audience. Of course, you can blame me. Blame the audience.
Yeah, try not to go there, but yeah, exactly.
We're talking with Monique Hurteau and Lorne Cardinal. The show is What's So Funny on CFRO 102.7 FM. I'm Guy McPherson. We're also on podcast. Monique, we're going to play a little clip of you. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. This is not with a real audience, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
You got that lined up, Kevin?
I certainly do, sir.
Excellent work, my man. Here's Monique Hurteau.
So I went skydiving for the first time, and it was surprisingly erotic. I get there, and this hot guy puts me into this sexy harness, and then he cinches it right up there, which was awesome. I would have paid for that alone. Oh my God. But I get on the plane, 3 more hot guys waiting for me. Cha-ching. And then the guy I'm going to jump with, he looks over at me and he goes, Monique, get on your knees. Dropped so fast in my life. There's a guy with a camera too. Anyways, the guy I'm going to jump with, he gets on his knees and then he starts coming over towards me and I'm like, oh yeah, Mile High Club, right? No, but what he did do is he clipped onto my back. It was so hot. His whole body was pressed right up against mine. It was hot. I got a little bit embarrassed though, because that was my first experience with a strap-on man. Not my last though, that's for sure. But like I said, he was pressed up against me. It was really hot. Yeah, sexy. Till he threw me out of the effing plane.
That was Monique Hurteau. A little set. You could see that online. And I guess around town, even though you're living in Squamish, do you do sets around town, or are you too busy doing your speaking tours and wine tastings?
Well, I had been doing a fair bit of stand-up up until mid-October. I had my 3rd car accident and I got rear-ended and got whiplash again. So I've been recovering from that. So things have slowed right down, and I'm still writing and doing other projects and things. But stand-up, as I'm sure you're familiar with, takes a lot of regularity on, hitting the stages, as often as you can. Yeah. So I've had to take a big step back, but I'll be back at it once my recovery's further. But yeah, I had been doing, I could average anywhere on a slower week, might be 2 shows. One of my busier ones was 7 shows in 6 days. So it's a little harder to maintain out from Squamish.
Are there any rooms in Squamish? Maybe you could start one.
No, actually I'd thought about it when I have there's a friend of ours that has a place that he might do one once in a while, and look into some other ones when I'm back at it. Yeah.
Lorne, you are most known for your role as Sergeant Davis Quinton on Corner Gas. Was that your first comedy role, even though you were a clown as a kid? Because you were in some serious movies. Right?
Yeah, no, I did another series called Blackfly with Ron James out on the East Coast. Yeah, so I was Chief Smack Your Face in there. So that's where I got a taste for TV comedy, and I had a great time. It was it was a big learning curve, but
what was the learning curve?
Just doing funny on TV. There's a way to do it that that actually works.
And did somebody teach you that, or was it through trial and error?
A lot of trial and error, and just watching as well, just watching other people work, and then realizing the cutting and how the cameras work and all that. It's very, how to edit and how to perform, and knowing that you don't have to rush through it. You can take your time, and they'll cut around it. They'll make it funny as long as and it's the trick is keeping it fresh. I mean, that was the biggest thing with Davis, is because he was a two-dimensional character. The challenge over 6 seasons was how to keep it fresh without trying to repeat without boring myself. So.
Even though you're getting different storylines, different scripts, keeping it fresh as what?
Because Davis emotionally didn't have a lot of emotion. He was just a very
he was a cop.
Yeah, he was a keener, right? He was just a total keener and totally into everything. But he didn't have. They didn't look into his romantic side, his dark side, his moodiness, any of that stuff. He's just very specific, and that's how they wanted him. So it's a matter of taking the wonderful writing that we were given and. Finding out how to deliver it the best way possible to get the gags.
Was it 6 years? You say great experience.
It was fantastic. Yeah, I had fun every summer out in Regina. It was fantastic. I totally liked it. But it's like everything, it can be a grind after a while because it's a long shooting period, and if you're not working every day, which I wasn't, I'd work maybe 4 times over 8 days. Sometimes less, sometimes a little more.
And you're sitting out in Rollo?
Yeah, and sitting out in Rollo, and if I'm not working, then I'd be golfing or playing rugby or finding some trouble to get into in Regina. So,
So when Brent pulled the plug on it, he went to the cast. The
no,
producers?
He just told us. Yeah,
he just told you.
Yeah,
and were you pleased, or were you going?
Well, and I thought we had a couple years left, and I thought it was a bit premature, but. It was kind of how they did it was kind of interesting. We were flown. I was living out east, and they flew us into Vancouver here to have a lunch with the producers and heads of CTV.
What did you think was up?
Well, I said, the jig's up. We kind of figured it out, kind of placed it together that will probably be our last season, whatever. And then they surprised us and gave us our Gemini Awards that we won the previous years, and then they fired us. So it was kind of like a bittersweet, and then we went out and got hammered with our Geminis all over the place. So.
You can't think of it as fired.
Well,
That's what
the
you
long goodbye, I guess.
Sounds like the shit sandwich.
Yeah, there you go. And you'll like it too.
Is there a danger of you being stereotyped from that as either a cop
typecast,
or a silly guy?
Yeah, typecast. That happens. It's been happening a lot. So I don't know. People. I've been offered a role where they go, no. It's not a comedy. It's like I'm a classically trained Shakespearean actor. I can do more than comedy. I just happen to do comedy well.
That's right.
But I
So
also do drama as well too. So I mean. So it's hard to get out of that. So I just say no a lot. If it's just dumb comedy, it's like no, I'm not interested. I want a challenge. I'm always looking for a challenge. That's what drives me as an actor is finding something different to work on something new and find a new challenge. And
that's interesting because when you were doing these dramas, in the movies, you were probably going, no, I want to be challenged. I want to do a comedy.
No, I just wanted more.
Oh, okay.
I just want to lead. I just want a lead role. Yeah.
You were in some films with Al Pacino, or a film.
Yeah,
Which one was that?
Insomnia.
Yeah, that was good.
That's one of the first times I bumped into Squamish because we shot out there, and I kind of liked the town. I loved the Chief Mountain and stuff. I keep it in mind. But it was great working with the master. Man, he was brilliant, and Robin Williams was insane. His mind goes a million miles a minute. He's but he's stock still when we're rolling. He's totally like watching Al, and just totally absorbing everything. He's like a sponge. And then as soon as they all cut, he's got like 3 or 4 bombs. He just drops out there, and everyone's in stitches laughing. And then he just doesn't stop until the next time they go, okay, rolling.
But that must have been fun.
It was tons of fun.
And you did a film with Susan Sarandon?
Yep, did Icebound, and it was called Icebound. It was the story of the woman down in the Antarctic who diagnosed herself with cancer, breast cancer, and treated herself.
Yes, I heard about that. Yeah.
And Canadian pilots flew in to save the day and get her out of there before there was no flying time to get out, right? It was Canadian pilots, but in the movie, they say it was American pilots. And I brought issue up to that with the director and producers over dinner.
And what did they say?
They went, it's an American show. And I said, yeah, I guess, but it's so easy to rewrite history. Yeah.
Yeah.
inspired by a true story. So that's how they get away with it.
Yeah, as long as it's just inspired.
Yeah, it's not actual telling. But,
yeah. So what,
but she was great. She
what
was
role
fantastic.
did you have in that?
I played a guy named Barry Columbus, the most southern Cree man in the world.
From
I was just a
Antarctic?
handyman, so one of the support teams. There was a bunch of us in there, playing like the support crew that stays while the weather's really bad. They stay there and keep everything running. And
Where was that filmed?
Toronto, in and about Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew I was having a great time when we did a night shoot, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, we got out to this quarry outside of Barrie, I think, somewhere, and we got to torque around on snowmobiles. Just driving by camera, zooming by here and there, zooming over here.
You're just a big kid.
Yeah, it was great. I go, and I'm getting paid.
And you mentioned you're on a new series.
Yeah, I've got a small recurring role in this. It's a kid series. It's called Level Up, and it's on the Cartoon Network. And
Here?
Cartoon Network in the States, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where the Cartoon Network is.
Yeah.
I
You got a
payday?
job, that's all that matters.
Who wrote this shit and where's the check? That's the usual things I ask. And when's the party?
Yes.
3 things you
The
got to know.
snowmobiles.
Yeah. But yeah, it's great. I'm working with a very talented, polished cast, and they're all like 17 and maybe younger or something like that. But they're just they're quite the pieces of work.
So it's like a high school.
Yeah, it's kind of like set in a high
comedy?
school. Yeah, high school comedy, and I guess there's. I didn't read the first couple episodes because I wasn't in them, so I didn't get them. So I'm guessing that somehow when they play a video game, it blends into our world as well, and they go into
Oh, I see.
into the game world. Hence the term level up. So they are trying to get a.
I'm getting.
Yeah,
I
so,
get it now.
So something like that. Anyway, so
Who do you play in this?
I play Principal Storms.
Oh,
Yeah.
Storms.
Storms, yeah. More than one. Yeah. 'Cause that's the dimension. So it's great. I come in, do a scene or two, and then I'm gone. And then they phone me back and say, hey, we got to cut some more next week. Come on in. I was, yeah, sure. It's cool.
I read that you had a run-in with a director. Is that what you're talking about? That film? You had a run-in about a stereotype.
Oh, I've had a few. I've had
yeah?
a few, yeah. No, I've had a few. I did an audition for Tom and Huck, it was called. Was that kid from the Tim Allen show? What's his
Zach
name?
or
I
don't know.
Yeah, a young guy. Anyway, he was playing Tom, and they flew me in to audition for Indian Joe.
Oh, so is this like Tom Sawyer and Huck?
Yeah.
Okay,
That remake
and that was a
in-
character in the book.
in the
Joe.
book, and it's in the movie too. And
Right.
and so I'm auditioning for this guy, and I forget his name, but he was very famous or something like that. And it was just me and another guy, down to the 2 of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, taking to LA, it was kind of cool. I was like, all right, first class hotel, first class flight. You gotta love that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
It's like,
And you knew that you didn't want that part.
Well, I did. I said I'd love to do it because I love doing film, so I'd love
Okay.
to do it. But I said my down point was when I said, the scene here. I said I've got this idea, and he goes, well, sure, share it. So I said, okay. Well, you know how I said, Indian Joe's a negative stereotype. All he is drunken Indian. That's how he's portrayed. And this way, I said, the idea I have is to show him on his island by himself around a fire, and around him he has broken shields and lances from his culture. Now, his father's white, his mother's native, so he's a half-breed. So he looks so native, so he's not allowed in the white world, and he's not allowed in the Indian world. So he's a lonely guy sitting around the fire. And just have this picture of him trying and remember a song that he sung as a kid, and that's why he drinks, and that's his purpose. That's what his story, and you can show that. And he just kind of looked at me. Well, why don't you just do it like it's written here, and right there I kind of went okay, and just talked myself out of another job.
Because you wanted to give him another dimension.
People don't realize, like in TV and film, it's easy to, they're drunks. But in real life, people have a reason why they drink. There's a pain, there's a story there, and that's what I was trying to get at, is to make them a more fully shaped character and not just a stereotype.
Yeah, because stereotypes are interesting. Mm-hmm. Any culture, any group that has a stereotype, there are people like those stereotypes, but you don't want that being the only representative of it in film, right? Exactly. So, I mean, you couldn't say that, this character, whatever it is completely fabricated.
Yeah.
Yeah. that there are people that are like stereotypes.
And it wouldn't have called for any extra line. It wouldn't have called for no lines. It would have been totally visual. It would have been just a scene, picture with 1,000 words. Mm-hmm. You can see someone in torment and pain trying to figure out where they belong, where they come from. Who do they belong to? Who are? That's a huge journey for any story.
Mm-hmm.
It's all like, where do we come from? Where do I belong? Where's my place?
The role that you played in Corner Gas, he was First Nations, but it was sort of incidental, wasn't it?
It was never meant. Davis was never meant to be First Nations. He was just written as a cop in town.
Right.
And I just happened to make them laugh more than other people. And they teamed me up with Tara Spencer-Nairn, which was a godsend because her and I was supposed to be the serious, heavy-handed one. And I'd never worked with Tara before. I never met her. And we just walked to the studio together our first day, and we're just yapping, getting to know each other, and some between there and doing a reading for our producers who'd never seen us, so they put us together to see what they'd created, and somewhere along our walk we managed to flip the character. She was the serious, heavy-handed one, and I was the flighty one. And
you just decided together?
It just worked out that way. It just started going that way, and she's a great straight person too. Yeah. So she just started doing that, and I started doing the going the other way, and we were kind of like, oh, that works too. So let's keep it like that.
You must have had lots of fun with her because she's crazy too.
Oh, she's a spark plug. Yeah, she's great.
And what I liked about that show too is they hired actors first.
Well, it was the best advice Brent was given. He was given a lot of advice on that show, and that was the one I'm glad he stuck to, was to hire actors for the because he wanted to audition all his buddies, right, all his stand-up buddies, which is great because it's a sign of the type of man he is. He's very loyal to his friends, which is a fantastic trait. But in show business, you need someone who can do more than just deliver a punchline. You need someone who can build a character and live in a character for a while.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of comics don't have that talent, to do that. So it's great to get actual actors who know how to portray character. Like Eric Peterson and Janet Wright are fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Find. If it was an actor, that I can't see who else would be playing them.
Yeah. So you fight directors fighting cultural stereotypes that way. Do you do it in your stand-up, Monique, at all? Do you address it?
I've had a few incidences where I've started to, but I'm trying to be careful that I don't end up sounding too angry because it's touchy. Like I have a joke. I don't do it that often, but there have been people that get uncomfortable about it, and so I've been trying to find ways to work on it so that I don't drop to a level. But I got called ironically by a guy that runs a comedy festival. He was trying to hit on me after a show down in English Bay, and I was trying to leave, and he asked me to come and make out with him around a corner. And as tempting as that was, I said, thanks, no, I'm going to keep going, and started to walk away. And he called me the equivalent of the N-word, or just horrible. And I turned and I just went, he called me a chug.
Oh yeah.
It's horrible. Yeah. And I screamed, and there were people around, and his face just went like this, like, uh-oh. But a minute before, he's like, oh, come on, why don't you come around the corner and make out with me for a few minutes? And I was like, yeah, no thanks. And earlier on, after he'd seen my set, he came up and he said, oh, what do you do, where are you from, and all this. And I'd said, well, I'm a consultant, and I have a master's in business. I do this and that, and I also, travel and do lots of work in Aboriginal health. So he goes, oh, and I said, because I'm Aboriginal, and then I say I'm Métis and First Nations, and then he immediately goes, oh, I got all the solutions for your people. And he starts to go on, and I could tell he'd have something really profound to say by the way he was slurring his words. So I got away, and then at the end I was walking away, and he called me that. And so depending, like the show, I think the show that you were at, I told that joke. It was a native comedy night that night, so I did end up telling that story and the joke, and that I said, so after the officers were rinsing the blood off my hands so they could fingerprint me, like, but I go into some of that stuff, but it seems to really hit people sometimes, and I try to be really careful with what I do to question it and talk about it rather than do it and say, oh, me and I don't even want to say an example of it, because I've seen other comics that do it and perpetuate stereotypes, right, whether it's of people outside of their own cultural background or their own. And I've seen it done in ways that it infuriates me, because if you're just going to do it and get a cheap laugh and go on with it, you're not helping us out at all here. So there's some that I do, but it depends on, because at a corporate I can't really be making these, political, exactly. So it just depends. I'm still looking at ways. I had a really great chat with Daryl Lennox about it once, talking about pioneering and trying to, because I'm an Aboriginal person who doesn't look it. I'm like a secret agent, and people say things around me and think it's safe. There's been lots of comics around that have said it. There was one night that, thought of as being one of the best, nicest, and I heard the most graphic, horrible, racist things, and I called them on it. And I've paid the price in some cases too for, not ass kissing or boot licking as much as I should, but I'm not 20, so I don't need to worry about whether I get $10 for that show that I'm going to be on or not.
And your secret's out now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It's funny. You mentioned...
You're not 20? I've been... Oh, right.
You mentioned Cree, or not Cree, you mentioned Native and Aboriginal. I mentioned First Nations. Do you care how you refer to?
If they know my species, that's great. They can identify me as Cree, even better.
I have a few times though when somebody is, I guess, in the true sense of the word, ignorant, not knowing, when they've said things like, I actually, and this was a comic who was a former school teacher, and I had said, I'm Aboriginal, I'm Métis, and I'm First Nations. And Aboriginal sort of is the term that catches Inuit, First Nations, Métis, and then under First Nations are the 600 or so First Nations across Canada. So I said these, and she goes, oh, no, you're not supposed to call yourself Métis. You're not supposed to call, you're supposed to call yourself, you're not supposed to call yourself this, you're supposed to call yourself this. And she said, you're not supposed to say Aboriginal, you're supposed to say Native.
I think you could call yourself whatever you want to call yourself.
Well, I just looked and I went, so I actually have used that in a joke, especially in Native gatherings, where I've said, yeah, and you know who that was? It was a school teacher who corrected me, and they laugh because it's like, oh, really? I'm supposed to hear. And I corrected the person and said, no, actually, and she goes, oh, no, that's terrible. You're supposed to call yourself this. And I just went, whoa, I'm glad you're not teaching kids anymore. But
you guys are doing workshops now together?
Yeah, yeah.
Based on what's the topic?
Humor for health. Health for humor.
Humor for health.
Yeah.
You better get it straight.
I'm the new one, right?
I've brought Lorne in. I do a variety. That's probably next to stand-up. Stand-up is actually becoming the majority of what I would do, but I also do a lot of teaching workshops. So I have a background in personal training and fitness, which I don't actually do a lot of, but I bring it into workshops for improving health, so physical activity stuff. But Humor for Health is my favorite because it's looking at balanced health and wellness being more than just about, being out walking and doing things, but also your spirit and energy, and ways to bringing in some basic, like even joke writing skills, like a bad news to good news story, so that people can use it for coping and resilience. So they brainstorm together something that happened that they want to change from bad to good. I can't
just
even
psychically in their head.
Yeah,
it helps them
to
deal
learn
with it better.
To learn, because as stand-ups, we take a lot of our painful, like I have, jokes that I've written about, I have this one aunt who had a pretty, she's pretty violent, and I've taken that situation and incidents with her and turned them into like killer stand-up stuff. So showing people that you can take these situations and turn them into stuff that you can laugh at, and then getting them being a little more goofy with each other and looking for the humor and the funny, so that they can take that into their everyday life. And in some cases, if I get a chance and they have money to, bring me into a youth conference or some kind of, health conference, I kind of prefer the workshops in a way, because you can still be, funny and bringing fun in all the time like that, but giving people tools and skills they can take with them, as opposed to just, half an hour of entertainment. They can actually take this. So take them through like a joke jitsu, so they come up with a bad news to good news. They come up with like a dojo name, a team, like their team name, and then they come up with a move, like like some kind of warrior move or something, and then a war cry or something that goes. So they'll come up with this and get them to come up and perform it. And we had that one group of people that were laughing so hard they couldn't even breathe. But I've been doing that on my own. That was a lot. And then Lorne and I met, and then we're looking for ways, because we both travel so much, that we can work together. And of course, when I say, somebody already had me booked for a workshop, Humor for Health, and I said, oh, by the way, if you're interested, I have Lorne Cardinal from Corner Gas who might be available for an additional, to come out if you're interested. And they're like, oh my God, really?
Yes.
And so then Lorne comes along, and we get to have fun and bring joy and laughter and work
great.
with people.
Yeah, it's tons of fun.
Yeah, and then I brought Lorne out too for physical activity stuff, because I was working with some provincial initiatives like the Act Now BC training community health coordinators that were working around in different cities throughout BC, and we went in, so we're teaching them stuff about physical activity readiness and things. And because Lorne's got a background with rugby and fitness and health, so then I brought Lorne on those as well. So, and people are so excited when they find out that Lorne's coming too. So I mean, whatever it is that gets people in the door and gets them active and moving more. So that's been great.
Yeah, and we're there to support them, because it's a community-based challenge. So who's ever stepping forward to organize these health challenges are basically being leaders. So, and people who step forward like that to do stuff to better their communities and stuff, they need support. So I love doing stuff like that to let them know they're not alone, and they've got other people in their corner, and it's great fun.
We might be losing Monique there.
Yeah.
We have like less than a minute, but Lorne, you're also doing a lot of theater these days, aren't you?
That's right.
You did some in the neighborhood.
I did. I was at the Fire Hall. I did Thunderstick, a play by Ken Williams, not too long ago. And I'll be up in Kamloops doing The Pleasure of Seeing Her Again at the Sagebrush Theatre with Western Canada Theatre Company. And then in May, I'll be in Ottawa at the National Arts Centre doing King Lear with August Schellenberg, Lorne Cardinal, a cast of all native performers.
You weren't lying. You were a Shakespearean trained actor.
That's right.
All right, guys, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Lorne Cardinal and Monique Hurteau.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next week, we'll be back. Same time, 11 p.m. I think we got Graham Clark and Dave Shumka next week. So stay tuned. Good night.